artists, muralists. Thank you so much for being with us, and we feel privileged to see these artists who belong to the first generation of Chicana activists in New Mexico. So we look forward to hearing from you. Could you please briefly introduce yourself?
Mary Lou Griego, retired educator.
Juanita Labadie from Taos.
I'm Luis Montaño.
My name is Marcia Medina.
Buenas tardes, my name is Francisco Lefebvre.
Hi, my name is Roberta Marquez.
Cristino Griego from Las Tuzas, New Mexico.
I'd like to start with my question. Why do you think that murals or your works were covered? Could you talk about that?
There was a time that the murals were much appreciated by community, students, and then because of governmental political change, there was a gentleman by the name of Les Houston. He was in control of the budget for funding and approached the new president of Highlands University, Dr. Sanchez, and said, if you're anticipating any funding, forget it until you paint over the murals. He instructed the interim president to paint the murals. They called out the paint crew from Highlands. Two of us were called at the time. Chemo Gallegos, who was the Upward Bound director, and myself were there at 3 a.m. trying to persuade the folks not to do the paint, not to paint over, but we were asked not to interfere.
I do have to say that when it happened, when they painted them over, I know the art students organized with Pedro Rodriguez to have some meetings and workshops, and they brought in photos of the murals, and there was a big discussion, and Juanita and I even tried to have a meeting with the president, and that went over like
I think, if you go back to the actual creation of that mural on Burris Hall that was painted over, I think that it was such an expression of the time, but I really think it was such an awakening in the community for all of us as artists, as community members, to really define and state who we were and who we wanted to be.
How did the movements inspire, change, or shape your art making or your ideas about this kind of art?
make a little reference to that because I was involved with the beginning part of mural. It was like an explosion. It was a paradox of contemporary expression based on very strong ties to tradition and cultural, which we call carencia right now, but that was really critical. There was a lot happening during that time. The feminist movement, the anti-war movement, the Chicana movement, and civil rights. And we're still dealing with the historical trauma, but that tie of a contemporary expression that just burst out, the energy. It was like a vortex, just threw us out all different directions, and here we are now.
Those murals that we painted at New Mexico Highlands University actually brought us into the stage of the whole Chicano mural movement that was going all over the country. When we spent a summer in a cultural exchange in Mexico with Ramiro Romo Estrada, he brought us through how the process began with the Mexican mural movement, where they first did research about the Mayas and the Toltecs and the Aztecs and the way they created art. We were able to develop a composition to be able to tell a story.
New Mexico Highlands was rich with cultural struggle, and this was surely the golden age of art at Highlands University, and still think that title holds to us all in this room.
I was not an art student at the time, I was an education student. But because I was friends with all these people here and I'd hang out, our Professor Pedro, you walk up to a mural and he would just hand you a brush. And that was my first what? Me too? But that's what muralism opened up, was art for the community.
Can we talk about some of the images in the mural and how they were interpreted as controversial?
I think that people they weren't aware, or they didn't know about mural art. People have said, your art doesn't belong in New Mexico, it belongs in Mexico. I had a sketch of Che Guevara, and I said, well, let's do it. So I gridded my sketch, and I gridded the wall, and I laid out the Che, and in about 3 hours there was a Che on that wall. The next day they came to me and said, you got to get out of here. You got to leave this university because you're a bad influence. So that was an image that was really like how would I say, was controversial, to say the least.
As artists, what led y'all to Chicano art specifically?
One word: validation. Because before, I think our culture was considered a little bit irrelevant to main society, and so it was a validation that yes, every one of us had a voice. As different as we were, each one of us had something to say, to contribute to being valid as a culture.
Although the murals have been covered, we still have photographs of those murals, and that is just something that we can always pass on to the next generations. Because I remember when we took over the administration building, and we went into the president's office, and they brought me a sheet, and I painted a huelga flag on the desk of the president, and then we went up to the balcony and we hung it over. They sent in the National Guard to drag us out of the building, and they took us to jail. I was in jail for one night, and that was it, you know. But it was an experience of being protesting.
I had a question, if I may. I had the privilege and fortune of growing up in Las Vegas, and I remember my dad poetically and in a romantic way talking about the day that the murals were being painted over. I remember him describing it as, you know, the maintenance personnel having been ordered to cover the murals, who were predominantly Chicano themselves, covering up their history because of a mandate. Do you remember that day? What was that like?
It all happened on a quiet Sunday. Nobody from state employment should have been working on that day.
I just remember the feeling of loss and just shock, you know, and why.
It was censorship personified.
And it's the fear that they have in seeing the expression that we created. But, you know, when I heard about it too, I was in Española, and I, like Roberta said, I think it's just a shock that you hear, and just kind of a sadness, because you think about the interaction that each of us had, you know, because it was, like I said, it was like an awakening, and everybody joyfully painting over each other, under each other, you know, just creating this mural, this expression, and so it's like it was gone, you know, it's just gone. And
I do have to say that almost on the first day of that mural painting class Pedro taught, he said something like, don't ever expect this mural to last forever, like, you know, something like that. They're political, it's art, it's, you know, expression, and don't be shocked if somebody comes and doesn't like it, you know. I always remember him saying that.
Thank you so much for your insightful answers. And let's give a round of applause to our